button. Well, hello, guys. Sean Zine, the Connection Machine, also the host for the Network Marketing Insider podcast and the owner of Connection Creator Academy on Skool. I have a treat for you today. A great friend of mine. Haven't seen in a while. Seen him on social media. Doran. Back in the day, I'm talking, guys, 2018 is when I first got introduced to this man. Got me involved with getting outside of comfort zone, doing video, providing value consistently, doing interviews like this. So I want to welcome him in. And Jay, how the hell are you? What's new, man?
Well, I'm great. I'm honored to be here and excited for this opportunity. This is the first podcast that I'm a guest on in my podcast tour of maybe close to 50. So 50 friends. So I'm grateful to be a friend with you and for the opportunity to have a conversation with you and hopefully be of value to your growing audience.
No, man, this has been a phenomenal journey, to be frank. I remember back in the day on Facebook, Jay Doran in a car, getting videotaped, dropping value while you're driving. Can you bring us back to that when you first started doing the Culture Matters early on? What was like the mission then, and has it changed since?
Yeah, so I'll clarify for the audience. So I'm a thought partner to founders in transitions. That's what I actually do. I help leaders and business owners think more clearly so they can be more effective leaders. And early on in my career, when there wasn't necessarily a massive demand for that coming from me, I physically went to using any form of transportation, feet, legs, bicycles, lifts, cars. Before I was using less lifts and Ubers than it was more of driving to business owners and shaking their hand, asking for an opportunity to interview them and or speak to their teams. So I think we met early on in that period. And from what I understand, you had said to me yesterday that I think this is powerful lesson. You had gotten started on video from seeing me actually do that in the world to start the company. And one of the takeaways I have from that is we never know the impact that we can have on someone's next decade.
Yeah, very true. And it's also, you don't know, I always talk about action takers. So you talk to people, you might go to a webinar, you might have a podcast, you might have some kind of presentation. You leave that presentation, you should be acting on that. You should be implementing, you should be doing something with that new knowledge that you have. But in this world, people like to just make complaints. Oh, my life is not where it should be. I don't have the money I should have. But I'm like, wait a minute, but you're listening to people, you're going to things, but you're not implementing. That's the problem a lot of people have, is that taking action, right?
Well, I'd like to give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they have choices. Maybe they have options. I did not. I left home young. I did not have options. I had to create success. There was no choice. Period. Maybe they're blessings in life, like home, food, water, friends, family, is exactly what would stop them from taking the leap, because they are safe, they are secure. Now, they may not be as good as they believe that they could be. Jordan Peterson says, compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who someone else is today. But I'd like to challenge that maybe our audience might be suffering from having a valuable life. Now, let's say that one is in a position where they have. Well, then it better be clear on why they're starting in the first place. And that brings you back to like where I live in the world of business owners and entrepreneurship, is helping founders and leaders think more clearly. It's like, why are we trying to grow the company from 1 million to 10 million in sales, or 100 million to 200 million? Why would somebody that is already unbelievably wealthy, that their great whatevers will never have to work, why do they get up in the morning and go to work? Because they have a calling, or they have a goal, they have a clear vision of where they want to go. So I just want to give the people that are listening that may not have started on their hopes, dreams, and aspirations, they may be suffering from having a pretty good life, just not necessarily what they what they envision of themselves.
No, I like that. I definitely like that. And you've been down that path as far as personal development. Jay Doran has written a book, and it's something that writing is very true to you. And I just recently, I guess, kind of fell away from doing the writing piece and have gotten back on. What triggered that?
Yeah. So are you referencing a post that I put on Facebook yesterday around writing?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm the author of 30 Days of Thought. This is a book that helps people gain clarity on on who they are, where they're going, what they want, what they don't want. It's less a book and more of a process to really work through. And for clarification, in that post yesterday, I have written, but I wrote for customers. I wrote for clients. I wrote in private and stopped writing for myself.
Mm-hmm.
So actually, if you can see my background, I actually have, you can see all those white binders. Those are books for different companies. I've written quite a bit, but private, nothing for distribution. Nothing, or shouldn't say nothing, much less than I normally would for myself. And it's an interesting, it's interesting with business, because before we have any opportunities to, let's say, help others with whatever it is, product or service we want to provide, we may have all the time in the world to pursue our creativities and curiosities for ourselves. And then once the blessing comes of being able to help other people, now it's like a teacher that's focused on their students' subject matter expertise, their students grading their papers, their students' grade point average. That teacher may stop reading whatever passionate literature or work that they're interested in. Business owners go through the same thing, where they get customers and they focus on their customers, and then the business grows and they forget about themselves. Right. I think some of this is a part of growth, and so yeah, that is. I started sharing rather my thoughts on Facebook last week, and it feels like home again.
It's nice to work on you, just like with the writing for you. It's maybe health, getting back onto working out. Some people are, not focused on that in their lifestyle currently because of something that's hindering it. It's just something that if people start reflecting about them and focused on them, yeah, you could find some time. It might be a little bit of time, but you can make that happen if you choose to. Now, you did all these interviews early on. You have a podcast. How many episodes did you hit? Over 1,000?
We just released episode 1,102.
How has that changed you from that first one you had? What has changed in Jay Doran from doing over 1,000 episodes on a podcast?
Well, the Culture Matters podcast is how I learn in public. How do people become who they're capable of becoming? From preparation is one of our core values for our consulting advisory firm. From preparation alone, I've learned to slow down. From having conversations with unique people from all different walks of life, ages, educational backgrounds, degrees of success from a capitalistic standpoint, from a familial standpoint, just all different people. Actually, 353 unique people that have come on the show. I've learned the power of curiosity.
Sorry, continue. I was just looking at my son real quick.
Oh, what's your son's name?
Yeah, a lot of things changed lately in the last number of years. I had, when we first met, I had Madison. Madison is going to be 20
Holy
coming
moly.
up in December. From that point on, I had Natalie is my second daughter, who had a liver transplant in 2019, who I documented the journey using the video, using and helping others go through that kind of tough time. She's healthy as an ox right now. She's going to be a second grade. So she's a 7-year-old. I have Olivia, who's a 5-year-old going into kindergarten. And then I had my mic drop, my son, Alexander, who's 3, who has been amazing to have now to anchor our family. But things have changed with the Zeem household, man.
Congratulations. That's unbelievable. 27, 5, and 3. And I almost had a conniption when you said, I think that's the right word, when you said Alexander. I'm thinking Alexander the Great.
Alexander the Great. My wife loves Hamilton. So that's there you go.
So that's actually how I connected with Jenna. She was like, she was listening to those Alexander Hamilton songs and those plays, and we went to go see it. Wow, what a beautiful! I'm very happy to hear that all of that growth and success. That's exciting, Sean.
Yeah, it's been wonderful to be a part of, and to backtrack with you as far as your podcast and learning from other people. That's what I was hearing with Jay. Is he's taking time in public, communicating, interviewing other professionals, high achievers, CEOs, learning from them, and also listening. A lot of people are not, and I've learned this from Jay, you focus on your listening skills. You want to listen to understand, not listen to reply. Everyone's focused on replying. Oh, I have this agenda that I have to get across to the other person I'm talking to. Instead of, as Jay mentioned before, slow down, listen, process, reflect, and then share to keep that conversation going. Do you feel that's something that a lot of people, I found using a podcast helped me with those skills? Do you agree?
What was your intention when you started it?
My intention is all about helping other people. I still do insurance. I like the online space, not having to trade my time for money. So I like that affiliate marketing, building content, connecting with other human beings. In my insurance space, it's like realtors, mortgage professionals, financial advisors I would interview. Now I'm interviewing people that are online business owners that are building an affiliate business, finding out what's working, what's not working, to help and give value to my audience, to allow them to be more successful for those that choose to take action.
The reason I asked was I want to know what yours or anyone's intention was that were to start a podcast, because I think the intention will reflect the culture that follows. So I wanted to connect with and learn from and with the guests. It's focused on the relationship.
Yes.
And the relationships, and thereby it put me in a position to have to slow down, prepare, and follow my curiosities, and also be aware not to become the guest while I'm the host. If it was positioned as an interview, not so there's a different skill set interviewing than being a radio talk show host or than a keynote speaker.
Right.
So I would say that some of the skills that can make a quality advisor, someone that's a thought partner to anyone really, but let's say a business owner, an entrepreneur, asking questions, listening, being a guide in their thinking, because ultimately it's them that will decide, choose, and envision subjectively like what they're creating in their business. Those skills can really be mastered through podcasting as a medium, because ultimately it's a conversation with different people that have different ways of being in the world.
A lot of people have that fear of public speaking. They're like, oh, it's either you're live or we're doing a recording. The live piece, when I tell people we're going to go live, they're like, whoa, are you going to edit it? And I'm like, that's the brilliance part of it.
I have never had the fear of public speaking. I feel most comfortable and safe on the stage. That comes with its own host of conflicts and problems. Yeah. But I have never had the fear of speaking. And I think if someone is genuine and has something to say, now there was a time where I needed to speak because I felt so unheard. And so it was more about me than it was about the value to the audience. As I've matured and become more educated, experienced, I've recognized the value in preparation and understanding who's in the audience, where are they at in their walk, what do they think they want, what do they think they need, what do they need, and trying to do the best to present a series of stories and lessons and practical steps for them to walk away potentially doing something right. Because the speaker has there's a lot of power, there's a lot of responsibility in the speaker, because they're transferring information to a group that will or won't get acted upon. So there's a tremendous amount of responsibility with being on the stage. And anyone listening to this has a pull towards the stage. I challenge them firstly to stand on the stage. Even if they say nothing, just like go up to a stage and stand on it and walk back and forth and just feel the room. You could do that at the end of an event where like everyone's already spoken. You just get up there and walk back and forth, and then they kick you out. Or you can, ask one of the speakers, hey, you mind if I just stand on the stage? But also a great prerequisite for being on the stage would be to have invested a lot of time, money. In one way or another, we'll invest money and energy in learning something that could be helpful to other people.
Now, you've said that goes along with your preparation. I'm probably hearing you need to prepare for each of your episodes due to are you going to backgrounds as far as your guests that you're going to have on? Or is it more like some people script? So they'll go through and they'll learn the history of whoever that person is. They pull nuggets from there, and they have this whole agenda. Do you feel an agenda script is a better way, a better flow for a podcast, or to just be authentic as we are doing right now?
I think this is something that each person that puts themselves in a position of host will have to discover on their own. My take is to learn everything. I learn everything about everything I can find, and then I write it all out, and then I put it in the corner, and I listen, and then I ask questions based on if I ask a question, I'm getting an answer, and then my next question will be based on the answer I get, not some idea, but I may have a framework. So it's a bit of both. And I don't even know where it's going to go. And I believe that's part of the reason we have such a high listening time. The last time I checked, our average podcast episode was listened to over 90%, and they're long episodes. People really listen. I have a loyal fan base of listeners, and I think that is a result of that way of doing it. So it's a combination, as Brad Lee would say. One of my best friends, he would say, "It's not a key, it's a combination."
And that just happens over time. Like a lot of people start something, they think it's going to be super successful. If we go back to Jay Doran in your first episode, what were some of the failures you had early on compared to what has helped you grow till that over 1,000+ episodes? What made you keep going?
Well, I did not listen. And one of the most difficult things of not listening is you don't know you're not listening. You think you're listening. If one is not a listener, the likelihood is they could actually think they are one. And if one thinks that they are something and they're not, then how are they going to grow?
Very, very true.
I remember early on going to offices, real estate companies, and sitting with the person in a position of authority. They could say no and they could say yes. So this would be the person that was of the highest leadership position, let's say, and coming up with topics with them like, hey, here, what about this topic? What about this topic? What about this topic? And yeah, I like that topic. I like that topic. All right, well, I'll ask you questions about this topic. So there was a bit of prep before with the person. It was like a co-creation.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, early on, I struggled with interruptions. I struggled with my own voice in the conversation that I felt needed. Remember, if we're positioning as an interview, it's different than a conversation. A conversation among peers is different than an interview. An interview is the host is elevating the guest in the sense that they're going to do the best they can to uncover their genius, uncover their thesis, uncover their operating system, ultimately transfer their information to the audience to transform the audience. A conversation among contemporaries, or whether they're peers or they're enemies, it will be a bit more, let's say, it won't be an interview. It'll be more conversational. So early on, I wasn't even aware of many of the things that I did that I'd look back now and say, wow, I'm proud of who I am today. And I'm proud of who I was then that I stepped out and tried. Why didn't I quit? It fundamentally, culture matters. And so I think actually building and having one is a great way to teach culture. So Culture Matters is how we actually do our work, like with businesses, and the Culture Matters podcast is our community of people that get together virtually and in person, that over many years, one by one conversation one interview, one conversation at a time, because people come back on our show with relative frequency. It was always part of how I wanted to teach culture, was doing as much as talking. Like on New Year's Eve, we do New Year's Eve Lollapalooza. We had 61 people show up this year. They'd all been on the Culture Matters podcast, and it was from 5 a.m. to or was it 4 a.m.? I think the first one was 4 a.m. to 9 p.m. and they're in different blocks. I had a co-host this year for the first half, Mike Calhoun. Shout out to Mike Calhoun, and founder of Board of Advisors. And so different people would jump on and we'd have a conversation around each person's word of the year. And so their community is a huge part to the vision.
I think community is very powerful. I think if you have it, that's gold. That's something that you can, those are your secret sales force that you have out there talking about. You got to take a look at what Jay's doing or what Sean's doing, because when you have those type of followers, that is gold. And it allows you to, I found the more I connect, and you actually helped me find and coin the phrase, the connection machine. I found that the more people I can connect with, I find out where their pain points are, how I can help them. It could be providing a solution to their problem for a product, service, or a community. And sitting down and listening and building my ecosystem of partners allows me to, in a connection call, it's like a cold call, but it's a connection call to find out I might not be the one that can service them at the time, but Jay can, and I would recommend Jay. And then the more I can recommend to others, it comes back to, tenfold. So I've found that using the podcast, I've spoke on stage before, not where you have. It definitely allows to have more credibility. It allows you to see from a different viewpoint and learn from others. It's like a free opportunity each time I speak with somebody. And I believe the more we can help people become the person that opportunities find by how they learn those strategies, that's where growth can happen. I got him. Now, with the speaking on stage, you were saying going back and forth. When you first did your speeches, did you have a few people in the audience? Did you have hundreds of people, thousands? How did you get yourself psyched up for those opportunities? What were you doing before those chances to give your word, your value to that audience?
I remember it was like the mid 2000s, becoming a member of BNI, Business Networking International on Wall Street. So I was consulting. My first consulting client was a boutique gym that had all the elements of success, yet the founders just couldn't figure out how to make it profitable. And I remember them retaining me to turn it around. And I joined. I thought, all right, well, I've got to change how they sell to customers and how they charge to customers, but also have to get customers through the door. So why don't I join one of these networking groups where I had an opportunity to speak? I'm not sure why I knew that I could speak, but because I hadn't done theater in school or anything of that nature, but I just said, okay, I'm going to join one of these groups. So I remember there's probably 15 or 20 people in that group, and they're all midlife, older, established professionals, talking about things that I had no idea about, using words that were bigger than my vocabulary. And I just remember saying, I'm going to stand up and tell them why I joined and what I think about this business. So that's 15 people or so. That was transformative early on. When I started Culture Matters, the audience, it might be 4 people or 10 or that's something I never focused on. I used to think, one of these people in the audience, if there's, 5 people, could easily be the parent of the next evil dictator of the world. And I maybe convinced them not to do that. That is something I won't share what dictators, because I think it gets negative. But I used to think, because that's the impact that one, because I've studied a lot of biographies, and many of the people that have done really bad things in the world, they may not have had a parent on a podcast bragging about, their kids, a 3-year-old, 5-year-old, 7-year-old, 20-year-old. Oh, I love my, it's like there's a lot of love and beauty there. So I had, that's the story that I operated from, which was, what's that have to do with me if there's 3 people? I was just asked on, today is Wednesday, today's Tuesday. I was just asked on Friday to speak in front of about 1,500 people. I mean, this is the unbelievable honor, and that would be the largest opportunity thus far. That's not something I'm going to focus on. More so, I'm going to focus on who's in the audience, why are they likely there, what are they likely working on, where do they likely want to go, where do they likely need to go, what's the current state of the industry, where does my story or stories and the things that I've learned fit. So to answer your question, the audiences were small.
which goes with people with social media. They're always worried about, I need to go viral. I need to have all these views. It doesn't matter. If you could talk to that one person, we never know what that one person, who they know, because they could be the one that changes your whole trajectory of your business because of their network. And that's something that people have to really understand.
Yeah, definitely not focused on, I look at speaking like there are a lot of speakers. Like if you walk, I lived in Philadelphia for 6 years. You walk down the street, there's a lot of speakers. You look to your right, you look to your left, there's people asking for money. They are speaking. They're putting their neck out, asking for something. They're attempting to influence. There's a reason why. I consider those people speakers. If we gave them a box to stand on, they would be a speaker. If you take the person that lacks a home on the street of any city, I'm just using cities because people in those positions tend to flock towards those areas. If you give them a box to stand on and they just tell their story versus, the weaker position of asking, hey, can you give me $1 or whatever it is, a penny? I'd consider that a speaker. If they just told their story, they'd get a lot of money. So when it comes, and so why am I bringing that up? Well, the audience, it's small because they're quick passerbys. You don't have a lot of time to wrap them in, but it's big because it's a whole city. Imagine how many thousand people pass somebody, laying down on cardboard. If they just took that cardboard and they put a couple boxes on top of it and they stood on it, they'd be a speaker. So the idea of virality or all these things to me is anti, like anti-culture. Culture is like behaviors, habits, rituals. How do we really do things around here? What do we actually do? How do we show up in the world? And so if I am putting out my thoughts and my words on social platforms, on podcasts like this, one person seeing it may want to connect. And now we have a relationships with someone we otherwise wouldn't. It only takes one person that is in whatever position they are for that day to give somebody that doesn't have food, shelter, water, for whatever reason, but they just don't have it, $50 to live another day. So I think the focus on the large audience and the virality is focusing on the outcome and not focusing on the process. And it's an anti-character theme because character is built from the process. Character is built from the experience. Character is built from the failures. Character is built from the rejection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, it's something that, I believe connections lead to all your opportunities. And the more you put yourself out there and the more you're talking to people, it'll allow you to have an opportunity of me interviewing Jay Doran, who was one of my mentors early on. How do you feel as far as what has been like a connection you've had that led to an opportunity to have them on your podcast or a speaking engagement, things like that? I think people need to hear how I've been preaching this a lot and how you got to put yourself out there. You got to, get people inside the DM. You got to get on a connection call. You got to find out how you can help them. But those connections can really lead to something.
Well, I want to acknowledge you because I'm pretty sure I consider you a friend, and you gave me an opportunity to speak at a public school many years ago. And that means a lot. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Everything I think much of how I got here was from people that I met, that I gave as much as I could in opinion, in feedback, in relationship, and they either opened up a door or connected me to someone that became a client, or they just became a client. I could go like, so I could give, it was 10. There are many people that are listening to this. Maybe they're going to go to a conference this year, and conferences or communities, where you pay a fee to put yourself in the room to learn something from speakers on the stage and maybe connect and make new friends. I remember being at 10X2 in Florida in 2018. And I remember listening to a gentleman that was teaching culture on stage. And I remember I had already started Culture Matters. And I remember saying to myself that I'm ready. Like I'm ready to share what I've studied and worked with business owners and clients. I'm ready. And I remember sharing it out loud. That two people were sitting next to me, one to the left, one to the right. To the right was a man, to the left was a woman. And the guy to my right was kind of like, yeah, whatever. Like, you're kind of a Looney Tune. And the lady to the left was, hey, you should be on stage. And I made a decision that moment that I'm leaving. It was the first day of the event. I paid more money than I could afford to be there. There's plenty more things I could have learned, like from a content standpoint, from all these unbelievable speakers. But I was ready to leave. I was ready to go to work. I was done. I'm not going to stay and try to, get my money's worth. I already got my money's worth. I'm ready. I'm leaving. So I remember going to the elevator. I went to the elevator. It was at a Marriott in Florida. And it turns out Grant and his wife Elena walked in the elevator. I was like, wow, this is cool. They're in the elevator with me. And I just said, hey, how are you? Good. And I'm leaving. I'll be back. I'll be back here on the stage. What happened was I ended up having lunch with a marketer. His team had reached out to me I became a prospect to them. Coincidentally, that marketer had worked for Grant for some time. And ultimately we had lunch. They invited me back to their apartment, and then we became fast friends. And they mentored me, I mentored them. And ultimately that person ended up creating the Internet Earners Summit in 2018-19. That is Jeremy Haynes, one of the best marketers in the online space. I would say, top, very proud. And he's done amazing things in his career all these years later. Him putting me on stage at his conference, at his summit, was a result of building a relationship, having opinions and perspectives on topics that people were interested in or had not experienced yet that he thought would be valuable to the audience. But had I not made a decision for myself, this is a personal, each of their listeners, whoever's listening to this, is on their own hero's journey, pursuing their path. And there'll be voices in their head that says, you can't, you're not enough, or it's time, just go for it. Oh, but I can't, I'm not ready. Or I left. I said, I'm leaving, and another opportunity was created. Now, that being said, let's say in another world I stayed. Maybe if maybe I would have created other opportunities, because the theme here is that along the theme, and I could go into more and more stories, but they're all the same, where there was a person that I attempted to be valuable to help, and then they opened a door, or they said, hey, help me or help my friend. Now, so I'll digress, but there's a lot of work that's gone, to becoming valuable. There's a lot of work that comes to.
Oh yeah. The value just in our time today, it's been a powerful thing. I've never even asked this before. I would love to hear from you. What do you think, as far as me as hosting this podcast, how would you rate me? How would you grade the way I presented some questions? I'll be vulnerable right now. Go for it.
It's difficult because I don't have a gradient. Like, okay, I want to give an honest answer. And to give an honest answer, I need to think and really understand what you're doing with the show.
Gotcha.
Or else it's just a flippant opinion. And I have to, because we have a relationship, right? I want, the first thing I want to say is like, I'm honored to be on the show. I'm grateful to be on the show. You've given space for me to think out loud and to follow thoughts. After you've asked questions right away, that that creates value. But I think it would be more appropriate for me to learn more about why you started the show, what your purpose is, what the goal is, and yeah, before I gave, and then, you know, how are we actually grading? Is it a conversation? Is it an interview? Is it a way to connect with, you know, with the guests?
All things that, hey, this is what happens when you connect. You ask questions, you find out where there's ideas right there that will just spawn. So, yes.
Here's another thing I'll say. There's a lot of moments in this conversation, I think, where I followed a thought, and the person in your seat could have very well easily jumped in to even with best intention to ask another question, because I followed a lot of different pathways. That's more of me, I think, practicing being on shows again, so I can be
right.
Practice brevity. I'm not the easiest guest, I think, because of the way my mind kind of circles and zigzags. So now that, you know, I'm thinking out, I'm not an easy guest. I know that. I feel pretty good about it, but I don't know your subjective goal from it, or what you're looking to accomplish with the show, or how you even come up with grading it. So giving one, I think it would be kind of just an opinion.
Yeah. No, that's just thought process. Just wanted to see where you're at. And as you brought up some great things as far as, you don't know about the exact, platform, what we're going, what we're doing. So no, you being here talking of what we just discussed, and those are just popping in now, you're gonna have to wait until this uploads. Massive value in here across the board. And we hopefully could have Jay come on in the near future as well.
I'd be honored, and I'd love to have you on the Culture Matters podcast, Sean. I should have asked 5 years ago. So we'll have to schedule that as well. And I'd ask the listeners to give it a shot. Just type in the Culture Matters podcast. It's black and gold. You'll see that. But I'd love to have you on the show, and maybe I can learn more on the show about, why you started your show and where you see it going. And but I feel great about the episode. So that you've given me space to talk about myself and things that I care about. So thank you for that.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you. Look at that timing too. I want to remind everyone, subscribe, like, comment, and share. And make sure you go to the description, have a connection call with Jay Doran, see if the direction that he can give as far as some value. I'm sure whatever business you're involved in, he's a great person to know, connect, and grow with. Jay, thanks so much for being with us today.
Yeah, thank you. It's an honor.
Everyone else, we hope you have an amazing rest of your day. We'll see you in the next one.